new report from the National Association of Realtors shows just how much the age of homeowners has risen in the U.S. According to the study, median age of all home buyers is now 59 years old. For comparison, the median age around the turn of the century was 36. Even just 6 years ago in 2019, it was only 47. Man, the report also found that the median age of first-time home buyers has skyrocketed to 40 years old. That number was much closer to 30 years, dating back all the way to the early 1990s, but it's increased sharply since the COVID-19 pandemic.
As a result of this, only about 1 in 5 homeowners now are first-timers, which is a historic low. When the report was released earlier this month, it caught the attention of many online, and the struggles of owning a home seem to be something that people on the left and the right can actually agree on. Julia Carpenter, writing for the New York Times, says, quote, "There are clear reasons behind the trend. Younger Americans are struggling to save for a down payment as they stretch their paychecks to cover student loans, a rising cost of living, and most critically, high rents, which makes saving money harder. And even if they have saved diligently, a persistent lack of affordable housing inventory has left them shut out of the market."
And conservative commentator Benny Johnson took aim at the baby boomers, saying this is a generational betrayal. What boomers will have the backbone and humility to admit this, apologize, and spend their final years and energy to right this wrong. I hear nothing. A generation voting and regulating themselves lavish riches and closing the door on the way out. And I think there is something to that. I share the bipartisan frustration from so many young people over how difficult it is to buy a house. Now, we should caveat this in a couple different ways. This is a large country. The interior part of the country is more empty than if you're a young, affluent person who wants to live on the coast, wants to live in New York City, wants to live in California. It's very unaffordable there. It's not so unaffordable where I'm from in the Midwest or in the Sun Belt. Now, there might not be the same job opportunities there. So they'll say, well, I'm sure I would live there, but we don't have the same economic opportunities. The places where there's jobs in, for instance, the tech sector, that's the booming sector for young professional people who went and got college degrees. Well, that's in California where everything's unaffordable. The solution to this is in my view, we need to build more housing. We need to ease regulations that make it impossible to build more housing. That's everything from zoning to historical preservation to height caps to anything else, energy or environmental mandates. Those all got to go the way of the dodo. They're trying to protect the dodo. They have to die like the dodo so we can build things.
Another solution to all this.
Uh-oh.
Drum rolls, please.
Okay.
Mamdani, he said in New York, he's trying to address the housing issue. He's speaking to people to try to bring down costs and try to make the playing field even for people that want to buy homes or rent properties.
Convince people to charge less.
What are you saying? And if it works, then New Yorkers will be our test case. Give the man a minute. You might not agree with his strategies. We're all giving Trump a minute, right? I don't agree with his strategy.
Not only do I not agree with his strategy,
like
I know
the tariff strategy. I think it's
work.
a disaster. But if it turns out that we end up as the self-reliant U.S. that he's claiming that is his end game about this whole thing, that'll be brilliant. He'll go down in history as the greatest person alive with these tariff ideas.
You can't.
But Mamdani has a similar idea that seems a little crazy to people, and if it brings the cost of living down by convincing these owners to bring their costs down, and it actually works, then New York will be a test subject for a beautiful way forward.
I love you, girl, but that is preposterous. You cannot convince people to just charge less. What they charge for a thing is a market signifier based on what the cost of it is to provide that good. You can't talk them out of making less or talk them into making less of a profit. What you can do is offer competition so that they're forced to lower their prices. It's just very basic market functioning. No one will voluntarily lower the price of anything. They'll lower the price to compete when the supply goes up. That's the tried and true format.
Well, I think that, I was reading the same study, and in 1991, the typical first-time home buyer was 28 years old.
Yeah.
That seems like such a far cry from most of my friends. And I, like you said, I wasn't on the outskirts of the country. I came from Colorado right before I moved to DC.
You owned a home there.
And I still own a home there. I'm able to keep the home while I live here because I bought the home during the pandemic and had a historic low interest rate. Mm-hmm. In any other circumstance, I will be struggling right now trying to keep up with my home in Colorado and also live in DC. I think that it would be a bit much, especially given this climate with the cost of rent in DC. I was flabbergasted by these prices, let me tell you. Yeah. But I think that that's my example, and most people didn't have the opportunity to work. Some people were furloughed during the pandemic. at that time. So if that interest rate doesn't come back around and prices are extremely high right now, when can young people find the space to live their American dream that they're supposed to be? And yes, in middle America, it might be a little bit more affordable, but the wages are much lower.
Right.
And the president's not making it easier to afford things. And so if people are frustrated, and a lot of people might have laughed at, and even though we chuckle about the idea of Mamdani being the whole Democratic Party, but taking away the actual, like the funniness of it to some people is a serious issue that he spoke to. The same thing that I told you why I liken Mamdani to President Trump is because whether or not either one of them follow through with these policies, what they did is talk to Americans, the economy, talk to people in their pocketbooks, in their wallets, and make that the core issue of what they were campaigning on. And so once you do that, you captured the ears and then the minds of the average voter. And so it really doesn't matter what you're saying, because President Trump hasn't made the economy much lighter than people thought it would be by now. People were complaining about it. But Mamdani did the same thing. He's saying what he thinks works. You disagree with it. But here we are. So he had the strategy enough to understand that was the
priority. With it, it doesn't work.
But even with the president, his strategies have not proven effective as he said they would. On the campaign trail, people should be feeling much better 11 months in. And that's what that New York Times piece that I brought up in our first segment talked about when it asked people who voted for Trump how they're feeling right now, is that people were like, you were supposed to do way more for my income by now.
Well, and for my generation.
Yeah.
We need to do more for younger people. Benny Johnson's point is correct that older people disproportionately have a lot of the wealth in our society now. They have a lot of control over the political system as people in Congress are older than ever. And you'll see, I've seen this on Twitter a couple times recently of it going viral of some older person say, why am I still paying property taxes after 50 years? Abolish property tax. Look, I'm all for getting rid of taxes, but are you kidding me? You bought your house for peanuts 50 years ago, and you're complaining that you have to pay property taxes? Of all the so I would move to just sales tax. I would get rid of all taxes and just have sales tax. That's how I would fund government. But income tax has to go before property tax goes. Property tax, you're paying taxes on property that you bought very cheaply that has gone up in value astronomically. We're running out of property. We can't afford to buy it now because the supply is artificially constrained, and you don't want to pay taxes on it. That is the least sympathetic I would like to pay lower taxes argument I've ever heard. And if Republicans, every now and then I'll see a Republican who are anti-tax people, and I get it, I'm an anti-tax person, saying, oh yeah, we should look at property taxes. No, 1,000 times no. We should just have no government then. If we're not going to fund the government at all, fine, get rid of all taxes. But if there is a government that needs to be funded some way, if you start with property taxes, you will just kill this generation.
I'm disappointed because I thought that at least in this very beautiful Thanksgiving holiday week with all the nice warm feelings, you would have laid off the baby boomers one time.
I can't help it.
One time, you got to lay off. These are people that we're going to sit at the dinner table with, have nice conversation. My grandma.
I'm the voice of my generation.
No, you can't blame everything. You sound like Trump who just blames everything on Biden. You just got to accept the now. What is our strategy forward? You can't just blame all the old. You're the reason why we're in this situation.
Biden isn't even a boomer. He's the generation before the boomers.
Trump and Biden are basically the same age, but okay.
Yeah, well.
I mean, both, literally.
Next up on Rising, newly published polling finds that faith is declining in importance in America's day-to-day lives. Don't go anywhere. Appreciate that.